Hey, welcome back to Raymore Repair. Today we're going to see if we can get this sweetheart to run. We're going to pull the carb and we're going to clean it up and get it going. See if we can make this thing run. Come along for the ride. All right, we got our side cover pulled off, of course. And then we can see in here we got ring around the needle. The carb was just sitting in here. I thought the camera was on and it wasn't. And we pop this off, our carburetor itself. And that's our slide. We have this cable that runs back here to the oil pump. That comes undone pretty easily. And then let's see what kind of condition our reed or disc valve's in, the rotary valve's in. It's in pretty good shape. Let me see if I can show you this, because this is rather interesting. Get you focused the right way. As we crank the engine over, there is a rotary valve in there. You can see it went away. There it's back. And then there's a trailing edge. There's a leading edge. So when the piston's going up, it opens, and when the piston's going down, it closes. And that forces the air up into the top end. Let's see what kind of goods we find in here. About what we'd expect. Pretty as a peach. It's our ignition valve or choke. Get that out of the way. Go ahead and get our air screw out. She's about 2 turns in. There's a spring that goes to it. Yeah, she's pretty cruddy. There's our emulsion tube. Got kind of a muddy type substance on it. Not sure what that is. Sometimes I just feel bad for these old bikes. There's our pilot jet, or slow speed jet. Now our main jet is going to be on here. There's our main jet. Now for the little pieces, I'm going to find a magnetic tray or something. Not that any of this is magnetic, but it keeps stuff gathered up. And you may wonder what's in here. It's water and Dawn dishwashing soap. We're not putting that back on. We're also not putting a B10 ES plug back in it either. We'll go with a more traditional B8 ES plug. Oh, she fired. Might be all we get. Yeah, I'd say it sucked a bunch of junk up out of the bottom end, and with this completely open, I'm sure it sucked a bunch of stuff, but it did fire once, so I have faith in it. It's going to run. I don't know how good it's going to run, considering, you know, we got just tons and tons of this stuff. Let's see what we got for an air filter. Really, this is about what I expected to see. Let's go ahead and reassemble our carburetor. This did not come super clean. It's got all kinds of fuzz in here, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything. So we're just going to go with it. Let's pull this back out because I don't remember how clean it is. Yeah, I think it's all right. I remember putting this in, but it's been, gosh, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago since we last worked on this carburetor. So you've got our pilot jet in. We got this stacked up. We need to put our float valve back in. Our spring works. This has a spring inside of it. It needs to work well. The needle does have a slight ridge on it, but we'll see if it leaks or not. What I'm looking for is that this level and this one's very similar to the same. It's kind of a base point, a place to start. It looks much worse than it is, so we're going to go with that. Yeah, our float bowl's back on. Move ahead, you can see all the junk down in there. Yeah, that's what this thing's been breathing because somebody didn't take care of the air filter on it. Kawasaki! Got a little ring around the needle right here, and that will drastically affect how this thing takes throttle. We'll set this carburetor on here. If it does work a little bit, so be it. This throttle cable is in bad shape, but they don't make it anymore, and I can't seem to find any. So we're going to run with what we got. All right, guys, we got our carb put on this thing, and we're going to run a fuel line, and we're going to hook it up and see if we can make this thing chuckle to life. That will be an exciting moment for me, and I'm sure it will be for you too. We're going to hook up a auxiliary tank to this because the real tank is full of rust, and it's been creamed, and it's still rusty. Who'd have thought it? Well, as you saw, we lost audio, or as you heard, we lost audio. It did start and run. However, if you saw in the video, this thing was just leaking fuel out of the carburetor. It was just ripping out of here. After it started, it was still coming out. I had the gas shut off whenever I started it, and I had to turn it back on, and when I turned it back on, it started running out again. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I know this carburetor is cleaner than this. Well, let me tell you, this is what was going on. I had the fuel line hooked up to here, and this right here is actually the vent for the carburetor. The fuel line is supposed to be over here where it is now, and that makes the fuel shut off like it should. Thing does run okay. We got to do a lot of final tuning to it after we get the cover put on here. That's pretty much it for now. It does run. Sorry about the quality of the audio throughout this video. It is a little rough, and that is one thing we are working on, trying to get that lined up. Next step, we got to put a rear tire on this thing. We also need to come up with some kind of front brake cable for it. If the guy who owns this actually wants a front brake, we'll have to come up with a cable. We don't have a pattern to make one from, so it's going to be kind of shooting from the hip. I would think that something like an old KD175 or something would be very similar to this, and I'll see if there's anything available that way, something we can adapt to this. But I just don't know. I don't know what he's going to want to do. He asked me to get this thing running. Maybe he wants to take it over from there and do that part himself. But we are going to put a rear tire on it because this one is going to split about halfway around it. It's never going to live. So come back out and join us. I really appreciate you. If you would subscribe to this channel, that helps me out a lot. If you're actually still listening at this point, which I hope you are. God bless.